to this special edition of our 10 at 10 panel. As you know, we're ending the year, so we're just going to be um, looking ahead at 2026 and kind of what that search landscape looks like. It's good. Spoiler alert, it's going to look completely different. But here with me is the full AdOps team to join us because they are the people that are really in the platforms every day. And they're going to give us those insights into what should my strategy actually be like in 2026. So today it's not about the trend chasing. It's not about all the hype and all of the things you're hearing about marketing. It's more about the clarity and what are some real insights and real things that you can do in each of your digital marketing channels today. So to help us to make sense of all these shifts, we brought in the experts in each of these channels. So to join me today, we've got Taylor. She's got a front row seat to how search intent, automation, and auction dynamics are evolving in Google Ads and Microsoft Ads. We've also got Madison joining us, who is here to untangle the messy middle of attribution and figuring out how we measure impact when the customer journey is anything but linear these days. So programmatic advertising, all that fun stuff. And then we've got Spencer, who's seeing firsthand how social engagement is really influencing not just paid performance, but also how platform models and users understand your brand. So these are the people who spot these changes before they're even industry talking points. And then we've also got Michelle here to help us guide this whole conversation. She is someone who's new to our AdOps team, so help us welcome her to the team. We're super excited to have her. Michelle brings us a fresh perspective, sharp questions, as well as just a real curiosity for how all these channels are working together for us. She's the perfect person to moderate us today and guide the conversation about where marketing is headed. So with that, I'll turn that over to Michelle, and she's gonna kick us off. So Michelle, the mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be part of this 10 at 10 special. And well, I would like to start with Taylor and the topic of paid search and what's shifting for 2026. Surely many of you in the marketing world are wondering, how is search really changing going into 2026? What would you have to say about it to all of those who are asking themselves this, Taylor?
Yeah, the biggest thing I tell people is this: paid search isn't a standalone strategy anymore. The days of bid on the right keywords, get the right clicks, and drive performance, those days are gone. Search engines are interpreting intent differently. They're pulling from context, behavior, brand signals, and cross-channel interactions way more than they're pulling from one specific keyword match. So if your brand isn't showing up organically, if your content isn't clear, if your signals from other channels are weak, paid search feels it immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the action is basically rating the whole brand, not just the query?
Exactly. Search engines aren't just answering what did the user type anymore. They're answering who is the brand, what do they stand for, and do they actually deserve to show up here? And that's why paid search can't function without SEO in 2026. SEO gives search engines the confidence to understand your brand. Paid search then amplifies that. One cannot do the job without the other anymore. And this shift is creating a huge opportunity because when SEO and paid search are aligned, your visibility climbs, your cost goes down, and your relevance skyrockets across every touch point.
So, if you had to give marketers one takeaway, something they should actually do in 2026, what would it be?
To stop treating paid search like bottom of the funnel only channel. For a long time, paid search was the place where people went when they were ready to take action, ready to buy, ready to sign up, ready to call. It captured that final moment. But in 2026, that moment is no longer isolated. People don't follow a straight line anymore. They search a little more, scroll a little, ask an AI tool a question, see you on social, come back, and then search again, usually with a completely different type of query. So paid search isn't just catching the end of the journey now, it's part of the whole journey. And because of that, it needs the right support around it. Good SEO so platforms actually understand who you are, good content so people can explore you before they're ready to convert, good signals from other channels so systems know people actually care about your brand. When those pieces are missing, you feel it in paid search right away. Your ads don't show up as often, your costs go up, and you're always fighting an uphill battle. So the big shift in this is don't build isolated ads. Build a strategy that supports them. Paid search wins when the whole ecosystem is working together. That's the mindset for 2026.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. I would like to transition now to Hannah. Let's set up to what Taylor just said, because I think everything she mentioned points back to SEO playing a bigger role than what it used to do.
Yeah.
From your perspective, when clients ask you what they should actually do differently next year, how do you answer that?
Yeah, it's a big question, right? Google completely shifted. I make the joke that the old algorithm is dead. What we knew about SEO is kind of different in 2026. It's definitely going to be not about chasing those keywords. That's something in SEO, keywords, right? The number one word you always hear is keywords. It's not really going to be about that anymore in 2026. The systems are getting smarter, as you've seen. There's AI overviews, and how those work is they, can really give that actual tangible things that people should know. So giving more clear answers can kind of be how people can leverage that. And that's what I think will be the biggest change is thinking about what's the actual content on your website versus keywords. No more chasing keywords. That'll be the biggest shift to get people away from, I think, as well. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.
I think that really helps set the stage for how everything connects. So building on that, let's talk about how we actually stay in front of people throughout the whole journey, not just one single touch point. Madison, from the programmatic side, you're seeing how people move across channels in real time. Can you walk us through what's changing with DDP in 2026?
Oh,
Are you here,
Sorry,
Madison?
I forgot I muted myself because I work so much in the office.
No, you're good.
Sorry, it's funny I muted myself because what I was saying is that I could talk about DDP all day, any day. So unless
Yes,
I'm
you
muted.
can.
But yeah, so programmatic looks so different than it did a couple years ago. I actually started a couple years ago, and I really kind of got into programmatic as something that is really interesting, and it is a completely different ball game now than it was then, and it's going to be so different, I'm sure, in the coming months as we go forward. So in 2026, though, it's not just about serving ads or chasing people around the internet. If you're not really familiar with programmatic advertising, it's those ads that you see on websites, connected TV, your Hulu, Netflix ads, Spotify ads. There's a ton of traditionally we kind of always shot for awareness and kind of group these audience buckets and chase people around on the internet. But now it's a lot more meaningful, and you got to be a little smarter about it. And it's about really showing up in the moments where those other channels that we're sort of discussing can't see, getting some of the data that you can't get from those other channels, and doing it based on the signals that people are giving you as they explore a topic or across the internet. So here's kind of a few key points that we've found that are going to be sort of shifting in the marketing landscape, is that programmatic picks up the moments that search and social miss. It's a really key channel to have working in tandem with some of these other ones. People do a ton of their research quietly. They're reading reviews, they're browsing comparison articles, they're watching how-to videos. For example, if someone's reading an article about a best home loan rate, that's showing you intent. If they're watching a bathroom remodel cost breakdown, they're giving you intent. They're showing you where they're at in their sort of sales funnel and what questions they have. And these micro moments don't always show up in your search data or your social dashboards. Just because of that, you're really able to capture intent in these ways. But programmatic can see that, and it can let us reach people during those curiosity stages through these sort of intent-based audience buckets that we can pull from. Another key part is that retargeting is now based on what someone did rather than what they visited. And I think that is my favorite part, sort of about what's changing in the landscape. Typically, we would use retargeting to say, if you click on this ad or if you ever visit our website, let's retarget. Well, now we can really kind of pull back and even layer intent into retargeting. You can see how they engaged on different pages, what did they view your pricing page? Then you can kind of build a confidence building ad, one that's ready to push them to that purchase. Or maybe they read a blog post and you can retarget them with a more educational based ad. So you can kind of design ads, copy all of that based on that intent and really make retargeting a bit more effective. And then the sort of final point, again, we just kind of want to recap on the fact that programmatic can fill the gaps and reinforce a whole sales funnel when it works in tandem with some other channels. A good example of that is that someone finds you through SEO. So they type in Google, they find you, but they don't take any action. Programmatic can bring them back in later. It can find them on the internet and bring them back into you and kind of get them now. And now we have some data about them. Now we know their intent. Paid search is what can really close that loop. Once they're ready to convert, ready to really take that action. And social kind of keeps them engaged along the way or informed after they're gone. So programmatic really is not just a standalone channel. It's a channel that keeps your brand present in between really big moments that are happening.
Awesome. So for those teams that are new to programmatic or have done only the basic retargeting, what's the easiest way to start expanding in 2026?
Yeah, I would say that you can really start really simple. Programmatic sounds so complicated, but it can be really simple, especially when you work, with experts that know how to use it. But programmatic is a really good way to amplify what's already working really well. Adding, a display channel or a connected TV channel. If SEO is driving a ton of early interest, you can retarget with some educational ads, get some awareness about your brand. If paid search is bringing in really high intent traffic, you can reinforce that mid-funnel with some mid-funnel programmatic messaging. And if social is kind of creating a buzz, you're getting a lot of traction on social, but you're not bringing in a lot of customers or you're not getting a lot of data from those customers, you can use programmatic to re-engage those people in different places on the internet. So you don't have to launch like 5 audiences, have a huge sales funnel, and make a ton of money coming from programmatic. It's really just a simple sales channel to kind of boost and support, add some stepping stones in places where there's some gaps.
Thank you, Madison. That really helps put things into perspective. Now I would like to bring Spencer here. Spencer, what shifts are you seeing in social ads as we move into 2026?
A lot. So I don't know if anyone's been watching our weekly or monthly check-ins, basically with me and Madison, where we kind of talk about social media news and what's going on within social media spaces. There's a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of kind of uncertainty, but a lot of solid stuff is also happening. So from a marketing perspective, social's kind of set itself up as a super influential part of the ecosystem, basically. So kind of going off of what Madison was saying is social has kind of established itself into another branch where you have your programmatic, you have your SEO. Social's kind of branched itself into its own thing. Or yes, you have these certain touch points. Social kind of bridges that gap where you're able to kind of display your brand. You're able to kind of talk about things that the algorithm might help you with, those kind of things. So social's kind of evolved a little bit and kind of isn't just like a nice to have kind of thing. It's an actual channel that can be used. And it's pretty influential in what you do with helping like things like paid search, programmatic, SEO, basically everything between. Social kind of helps lift your brand that way.
Yeah. So when you look at social signals, what kind of engagement actually tells you someone is truly interested?
Yeah, obviously you have like the key metrics like liking your posts, commenting, stuff like that. But then the platforms are able to see stuff like if people tap through a carousel, if they pause the video for a certain amount of time, those kind of things. It kind of tells you that the person's leaning in and learning from the content, and might be interested in something to do with your brand, which kind of helps you be able to almost retarget. So being able to set up cool things like pixels that, obviously this person was interested in this post or this ad, and just how we can market that and branch that into other tactics and whatnot.
So I know that this happens to a lot of teams, and the feel of being stretched on content creation. If they could just focus on one thing first, what should it be?
I think it really depends on, well, depends on your brand really, but you really want to communicate. You want to have a strong brand message. You want to say who you help, what problems you solve, and why it matters, basically. Organic. It's really one of the biggest things is having a natural feel. A lot of people don't want nowadays. People can kind of read through it because we've had social media for so long. I think Instagram's been around since like 2011, something like that. People are able to tell natural, organic content versus just the more like, oh, we got to get this done kind of thing. So keeping it kind of like your brand in the forefront, but kind of like what makes you different. Like I said, is social media is basically its own leg to stand on. So everyone's using it. Every company's using it. Just finding a way to differentiate yourself while also still helping your core client base. And then kind of just using that for content. So some key points are like using it. So like having shorter, if you're doing reels, having shorter clips, 5 to 7 seconds is usually what we recommend. Testing various hooks, like how can you get people interested in your content early on. That's one of the biggest things with social media is it's always evolving. So you always want to be able to capture that engagement. But kind of, and if you've seen any of me and Madison's monthly reviews on social media, people will scroll quick. So kind of just experimenting, keeping it natural and keeping it within your brand, but also trying to figure out and experiment different ways of, this is interesting. How do we get people to visualize this? How do we get people to see it? And just that kind of stuff.
Spencer, I just wanted to add something because I think we just saw it the other day, but employee generated content has become a big trend as well on LinkedIn. Obviously, more people are generating content and longer form content on LinkedIn, but what's interesting is it's actually ranking high in organic results, that employee generated content about those brands. It's helping on the SEO side of things too, which is really interesting. We don't normally see social media posts coming up on the first page of search results. So yeah, just again, all points lead back to making sure that your posts are really explaining your brand and adding that context. Because again, it all comes back to SEO. All of these things you guys are saying comes back to that SEO part of things too.
I've seen a lot of humor too. I feel like that's kind of been a big trend within social media. I could see that also in 2026, kind of leaning in a little bit more, a lot more humor. But obviously, if it works for your brand, obviously it's not one size fits all for everything. But I think humor is a good way for a lot of companies, and obviously it works for a lot of brands to, it kind of bridges that gap where it's like, you can still be natural, but then it also sells what your company does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. I think it's very interesting. I have one more question for you, Spencer. So in your perspective, since social is playing a bigger role in how platforms see your brand, what's that one thing that marketers should stop doing in 2026?
So what I'm seeing and kind of what almost what Hannah's saying too is a little bit more quality over quantity. Getting a lot of businesses and brands, they kind of fall into that rut of, okay, well, it's Friday, we have to post this. Okay, well, it's XYZ, we have to post this. A lot of those kind of posts don't do anything anymore. You still need to keep it, you still have to post somewhat free. It depends on the platform. There's so much going on behind the scenes with each social media, but a lot of those generic kind of just like, oh, well, happy Friday or happy this or that, just they don't resonate anymore. It used to, but now because everyone's on social media and everyone's posting those kind of that kind of content, it just doesn't get the engagement it used to. So kind of just leaning into your brand is what I recommend, while keeping it still organic, but having stuff that people might be interested in. Like I said, humor has been a huge thing. A lot of people want to know what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of cool stuff that businesses do that, your customer might not know, that social media is a perfect platform where you can still be professional, but you can also kind of show what's going on in the back. Same with like before and after posts, like, here's how our company did this and then after, those kind of things. So instead of it just being a generic post of, well, happy national whatever day, instead leaning into more of, kind of asking yourself why or what would the customer, like putting yourself in the consumer or the customer's shoes to see, if I was interested in this product or this brand, what would I want to see, And for me, humor is a huge thing for me. And then I think also just behind the scenes, I think that's going into 2026. I could see that being a huge thing going for companies and brands.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Spencer. I think, that's very important information that really highlights how social is shaping the entire ecosystem. Hannah, I leave it off to you. I don't know if you would like for me to continue
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, I did. I had a question for Madison actually to go back to. I didn't want to interrupt when you were talking about DDP and programmatic, but one of the things you mentioned that I thought was really interesting is you mentioned that often I think a misconception for people when they're trying to build a programmatic campaign is that they have to have all these fancy audience personas and all of these specific things defined. And I really liked what you said about really it kind of goes all back to intent and how you map it that way. So Madison, just out of my curiosity, what do you think might be some good ad groups that people could target within their platforms, just maybe as a standard to have those structured and mapped out?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that Spencer and Taylor both can relate to this as well. I think this is something we've sort of learned throughout this year, especially is that we kind of have reverted back to keeping it simple. I manage a lot of smaller clients, and I've learned that the more ad groups you add, just the thinner you're spreading your budget. And if you can kind of keep it tight to one is a really, really well layered audience data group. Those are my favorite to put together, and really thinking creatively within that one. I'll take, for example, a financial client, not just looking at people that might be into a new bank, but looking at people that are into mortgage loans, people that are into card services, like really digging into each of the products and services offered by that bank would be a great way to layer those into an audience group to kind of keep that general, and then add in some more a little bit heavier data layering after that, like a lookalike group. So once you kind of get some data from that audience, you can create a lookalike that will go and find other people that are like those, similar to those audiences. And then a little bit down the road, add in some retargeting. Look up people that are on specific key pages, and retarget to those users. And I think that's a really solid campaign right there. And then you can kind of keep building from there. But that's just kind of the most general I think you could do.
Yep. I totally agree.
Hannah might be frozen.
She might be frozen.
But yeah, I'm sure you guys, I know that you guys have found that as well. It's Spencer and Taylor, I think.
For sure.
Cool. I don't know. I don't know if Hannah was going to ask she gone. So I'll just ask the question. So is search still important in 2026 with AI everywhere? And also, I'll add a little note. So we do have a little bit more time. So if you guys have any questions that you have for us, feel free to drop them in the chat. Even if we don't get to them today, we might get to them at a later time. And I'll kind of do this too. So we do not have a 10 at 10 next week. It's the week after. So just keep a heads up for that and eyes out for that. And that'll be our last one, I believe, for the year. So, but yeah, anyways, back to the question. So is search still important in 2026 with AI everywhere?
Yeah, I'll just I'll throw one thing into the mix on that is that it is still important. It's just changing a lot. And
Yes.
yeah. Mhm. Taylor, you can talk about it a little bit.
And say I 100% agree with that. You have to make sure that you have intent behind your search campaigns. We've talked about it. Making sure that your landing pages match up to what is in your search campaign. That's going to be huge going into 2026.
Yeah, it can't just be it's not anymore just about keywords and
Yeah.
broad match, phrase match. It's about like, yeah, the URLs that are on your ads, the audience segments you're including, being a little dynamic with your geos, kind of all of that. And I think that when it comes to search engine marketing, I think the game has really changed there completely. And it's super critically important.
Yeah. No, and I think so. One trend that I could see, kind of related to this, so we obviously we have our Movera where we kind of are, or Google has Movera where it's kind of focused a little bit more on like we're working on like SEO and search campaigns and whatnot. We also will see ChatGPT. I have heard that they announced that they're going to have advertising on there and whatnot. So, having that also in there is going to be kind of interesting. I think search will always have a place. It's just going to be interesting to kind of see how the next year will bring changes. Because even the beginning of this year, there was like barely. I mean, we had heard inklings about stuff changing within search. It wasn't until I actually arrived that we got actual details about it. So it'll be interesting to see how 2026 looks. And
Yeah, we
from
should
there,
just give
you know,
we should give a note on that to everyone that we didn't know any of this was happening until,
Yep.
we're now reporting back to you. Yeah.
It's the name of the game.
Yep.
And why, yeah, hearing from you guys, is so important because you are the people in the platforms each and every day. And, it could be 8 a.m. We log in on Monday and a new beta thing has rolled out and we just got to roll with it.
Well, they just won't
But
tell
it's
us
fun.
that's rolling out, and we have to find out ourselves. But
Right. That.
it's how it goes. All right,
Yeah.
next question. Where should budget shift in 2026? And I'll kind of take this one a little bit because I just kind of mentioned it. Yeah, AI. It got announced that ChatGPT is going to be rolling out ads. Will that be the rest of them? Will that include Google's AI? Will that include this or that? I think kind of having a little bit of like a flexible budget to maybe test out some of these cool new things. Another thing that I have kind of recommended is trying out some more organic stuff. Reddit's been a big one. I know Madison did a lot of research into that one too. Reddit is a huge one. The amount of times that I don't want to see the AI chat. I don't want to see when I'm Googling something. I don't want to see the AI blurb pop up. I want to see something directly from a person. I will put whatever I'm looking for and then Reddit. So those kind of things. I think that we could see some trends to people looking for more organic stuff like that. So I think that's definitely another space is filling in that gap a little bit of finding places that people are going rather than the information seeking them out.
Yeah, and I think probably I think also it's just on the topic of budgets. I think I could turn this over to Hannah, but we're kind of really putting an emphasis on smart search, this year.
Yeah, definitely. All roads point back to getting your content right. Because really that's what all of these LLMs, all of these AI overviews, that's where they're going to pick up that information from your website. It's still going to crawl your website. The results on the page might not show exactly how they used to. But it still is crawling your website looking for that information, looking for questions to answer for customers, helpful. How helpful can your website content be? That's really where you should focus, as well as optimizing that effectively for all these large language models to come out and crawl your website. And you want to be mentioned within those. That's the goal. That AI visibility metric will really, I think, be an important KPI to focus on in 2026 and really trying to whatever that budget is, whether that's, maybe you need some website updates. Maybe it is you need more time optimizing some of your content, or it is just getting that content more refined. That's really, I think, should be a focus on your budget as well. And fortunately, some of that can be done, you know, it's SEO, that's all the good things about it is it has that longevity. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but unlike PPC ads, it hopefully can't just snap with the fingers change in one day. Now we have seen this gradual change, and that's why, again, we're pushing for more of that budget to be spent on the SEO side of things. And with that, yes, our smart search service is integrating both PPC and SEO together. They are no longer a sole channel. We are really packaging those as one because they work together so much and they rely on each other so much. The impacts we've seen of this year is you really can't continue to try to move the needle on PPC without SEO. So that is our smart search service.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it's
2026.
exciting. I know, yes,
Yeah.
new stuff. We're excited. We've got a lot more to share about some of the impacts we've been seeing, and we have shared a little bit. But we're also, in the process. Spencer has been revamping some of our case studies based on the Muvera impact and what the Google algorithm has done since May 2025. The numbers have been pretty interesting. So we do plan to share out more of that and continue to do that as we're testing all these theories and putting all these things to test. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think it's 10:30. We said we'd do
Yeah.
30 minutes. So if anyone in chat, anyone watching has any kind of questions, feel free to leave them in chat. Like I said, if we don't get to it today and it's after the fact, you're watching this like a week later or something, we can get to it in a future 10 at 10. But yeah, it's exciting 2026.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Thanks
Exciting
for joining.
times ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I think this has been a great conversation. And thank you everyone for joining